In the past, it was a staple of kidnappings for the hostage to hold up a newspaper to prove that they're still alive. The problem with me is that I started reading the newspapers I was holding up, although I'm still, as you can judge by our social media overlords, in captivity. Nevertheless, I'll try my best to get what news I can out to you given the constraints. First up, stories on the domestic news front that I'm tracking. Your briefing begins with the headline: The Supreme Court unanimously rules states cannot disqualify Trump from the 2024 ballot. Activists in Colorado tried to disqualify Trump. In a historic ruling, the Supreme Court said only Congress can disqualify a candidate from the ballot using the 14th Amendment's insurrection clause, overturning a 4-3 opinion in December from the Colorado Supreme Court that the provision prohibits former President Donald Trump from appearing on the ballot for the presidency in 2024. That ruling partially reversed a prior ruling in November that Trump is not an officer of the United States as defined by the 14th Amendment, and that the amendment therefore cannot be used to disqualify him from appearing on the Colorado primary ballot. This is the first time the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. The court wrote, proposed by Congress in 1866 and ratified by the states in 1868, the 14th Amendment expanded federal power at the expense of state autonomy, and thus fundamentally altered the balance of state and federal power struck by the Constitution. The court continued, Section 3 works by imposing on certain individuals a preventive and severe penalty, disqualification from holding a wide array of offices, rather than by granting rights to all. It is therefore necessary, as Chief Justice Chase concluded and the Colorado Supreme Court itself recognized, to ascertain what particular individuals are embraced by the provision. Chase went on to explain that to accomplish this ascertainment and ensure effective results, proceedings, evidence, decisions, and enforcements of decisions, more or less formal, are indispensable. The Constitution empowers Congress to prescribe how those determinations should be made. The relevant provision in Section 5, which enables Congress, subject of course to judicial review, to pass appropriate legislation to enforce the 14th Amendment. All 9 justices agree on the outcome of this case. Liberal justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson filed a separate opinion concurring in the judgment that no state can disqualify a federal candidate from the ballot. And now, on to international news. Someone recently leaked footage of the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leaders training.
To give you a warm welcome for many of you to the World Economic Forum headquarters. This is where the magic happens. And you are part of that magic. Feel the magic in these walls. Feel the magic that many leaders, many communities are bringing so that we can come together and create impact that we want in this world. What most of you don't know is that we took a long exercise to work with our advisory board, with our foundation board, with different stakeholders to really refine what's our mission statement. We know that the YGL community is a dynamic accelerator of a dynamic community of exceptional leaders who have the vision, the courage, and the influence to drive change. And we have a mission. And this mission is that we are a diverse community that inspires and connects extraordinary leaders in their efforts to build a more inclusive and sustainable world. That's who we are. And I would like by this occasion to thank all the members of the foundation board and the advisory councils who've been with us in this exercise and really helped us to narrow what are the low-hanging fruits and the sweet spots where we can do more, where we can achieve more, where by bringing all the exceptional leaders that you are, we can create something meaningful for our community, societies, local communities, and beyond. And that's what we do as daily activities. We select you, we connect you in our gatherings because we want to transform you. We select you because you are an exceptional leader, but we believe that you have the potential to even be better. And this is the space for it. This is where the magic happens. And the work of the YGL community comes within a framework. And that framework is the framework of the World Economic Forum. The idea of the forum is to be an incubator of projects. Have you heard of Gavi, for example? Gavi was a project that was launched in Davos some decades ago, and now it's by itself an organization. There are, as I said, hundreds of these. I'll highly encourage you to check out this, because you can be engaged in this project, and that's where the forum brings all the stakeholders so that we advance the mission of the forum. You are all privileged, right? You're all privileged. Just by being in this room, you are privileged. And you should not be ashamed of your privilege. But you should be ashamed if you don't use it for a purpose. And that's important.
Two things. Note how he says that the goal of the World Economic Forum is to have a more sustainable world and to have a more inclusive system. Inclusive? This is just about the most exclusive group of people anyone can imagine. He himself notes this at the end when he says that they're privileged and shouldn't be ashamed of their privilege. The second thing to note is how they never mention the end goal of the World Economic Forum. They never mention what the Greeks called the telos of the institution. The left is always cagey about hiding its intentions, so they never give you the noun. They only give you the verb for a thing. For instance, regarding abortion, the conservatives will give you the noun. They'll say, I'm against abortion, right? Abortion being the noun. Whereas people on the left will say, I'm for the right to choose, right? But the right to choose what? What are you choosing? Fill in the noun. Or they'll do the same thing with gay marriage. They'll say it's about marriage equality. Okay, but equalizing what? Give me the noun. And then you look at the World Economic Forum's goals of being inclusive and promoting sustainability, but sustaining what? Fill in the noun. Inclusive of whom and to what end goal? Tell us the end goal. Aristotle talks about that in Nicomachean Ethics. He said, never trust somebody when they just tell you the beginning stage of something. You have to know what the end is. So if somebody is showing you a caterpillar, you have to understand that it's going to become a butterfly, right? Never trust somebody who just gives you the beginning part of a scheme. And that's how vice works. Vice is you give somebody the beginning. You say, oh, this heroin will make you feel really good up front. First, everything is just going to be wonderful with these drugs. And they don't tell you what the end result is going to be after taking those drugs. So they're cloaked in secrecy, but this is essentially, what it was designed to be. It all goes back to Cecil Rhodes. Cecil Rhodes was a British patriot, I guess you'd call him, and he was the guy who built the first transcontinental railroad through Africa. And Rhodesia is named after him. The Rhodes Scholarships are named after him. And he had one kind of enduring goal, and that was to reabsorb what he called the settler colonies back into the British Empire. He regretted that the United States escaped, right? So he wanted to reabsorb the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and he wanted to create what he called like an Anglophone bloc, right? And from this Anglophone bloc, he said we could create a federal institution of the world, global federalism, he called it, led by this Anglophone empire, right? And so first they had to ditch, one of the prerequisites was ditching India, ditching all of the kind of the eastern aspects of the British Empire, and then once those were ditched, then they would set their focus on the United States. And he said that his strategy would be to ensnare the United States through treaties, which of course, lots of people have noticed, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. That before that happened, the United States saw the British as the redcoats. After the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, we kind of became stitched to the hip of the British Empire. And one of the people writing about this very eloquently is a guy named Duncan Bell, who wrote a book called Dream Worlds of Race. In it, he quotes Cecil Rhodes, who said, "What an awful thought it is that if we had not lost America, or if even now we could arrange with the present members of the United States Assembly and our House of Commons, the peace of the world is secured for all eternity. We could hold your federal parliament 5 years in Washington and 5 years in London. The only thing sensible to carry this idea out is a secret one, gradually absorbing the wealth of the world to be devoted to such an object." Within the space of 3 sentences, Rhodes asserted that perpetual peace could be secured by racial union, proposed a transatlantic polity with an alternating capital, demonstrating the ontological priority of race to political institutions, and contending that the only or the best way to create such a polity would be the formation of a secret society. This is the main piece of evidence of Rhodes's openness to formal unification between the British Empire and the United States. It is an exemplary proclamation of the racial utopian imagination. Note how Rhodes talked about how they would have a secret plan, gradually absorbing the wealth of the world to be devoted to such an object, right? So they wanted to absorb the wealth of the world. And we're seeing that right now with green legislation that is like handing over all of the property, all the territory to the World Economic Forum, impoverishing us so that you will own nothing, right? As they say. And, so this is something that has been planned ever since like the 1880s. And there's a second page regarding, the secret society that he planned on creating. It says, while Carnegie thought the political elites should direct public opinion, Rhodes went a step further, suggesting in his most innovative contribution to racial utopian discourse that a secret society was necessary to undertake the epic task. The ideas gleaming and dancing before one's eyes like a will-o'-the-wisp at last frame into a plan. His model was the Society of Jesus. Its members, scattered throughout the Anglo-Saxon world, would spread the gospel of racial superiority, recruiting the best and the brightest of each generation to further the Unionist cause. Cecil Rhodes, in his will, explicitly says that he wants to leave money to, create this secret society, right? And to recruit the best and the brightest of the younger generation, like young global leaders, to participate in this scheme to reabsorb the United States, remove the sovereignty and reabsorb it back into England. And he created explicitly the Rhodes Scholarships for this to happen. People like Bill Clinton were Rhodes Scholars, or Rachel Maddow on MSNBC, or Cory Booker, and they're flown to London and indoctrinated on what they're called globalism, or the rules-based order. And it's really just rule by London, using the United Nations as kind of like a shell company that is really the British Empire, acting as a corporation in its corporate form. But it's interesting how he explicitly bases his secret society set on the Jesuits, that he uses that term. And he says, they're going to have an inner circle and an outer circle like the Jesuits, where the outer circle doesn't even know that the inner circle exists. And that will use this secret society to basically implement this, this unionist scheme, as he calls it. And, so it's interesting because he's conceptualizing the intelligence agency. He's conceptualizing the CIA, essentially, a secret society that's going to be unleashed and, kind of be above the law. And its goal is to do this. He's also conceptualizing NATO, and he's conceptualizing things like, obviously the World Economic Forum. Or as we should call it, the Weird Economic Forum, because now we're heading on to the News of the Weird segment. After all that darkness, it's strange that light beings are being seen in the Dominican Republic.
We have a crazy situation coming out of the Dominican Republic. This was posted to social media around February 27, 2024. Locals in a village posted footage of what they're claiming to be light beings that appeared. Over 30 of these light beings appeared in their village, and as quickly as they appeared, they disappeared. This is crazy. Take a look at this footage and tell me what you think. Could they truly have encountered some sort of other beings? What's going on? Tell me what you think.
Mi alma adora a Dios. Mi alma adora al Eterno. Sacaba, alaba. Mi alma adora al Eterno. Mi alma adora a Dios. Santo. Mira. Ay, santo. Mi alma adora a Dios. Mi alma adora al Eterno. Sacaba, alaba. Mi alma adora al Eterno. Mi alma adora a Dios. Santo. Mira. Ay, santo.
Who knows what's going on in the forest of Hispaniola, whether it's some strange optical illusion or interdimensional beings invading the quiet tropical nation. Who can say? As for us, we're off to the obituary segment. Mark Dodson, the voice of Gremlins, is dead at 64. He lent his vocal talents to lots of Hollywood films, appearing as Salacious Crumb in the Star Wars series.
Master.
Whoa.
Got no patience.
I hate long waits.
Come on, we gotta get out of here. Look, my eyes. Dodger, help! Wake me up. Please.
Absolutely. Here we have them. We got the gremlins.
Gremlins.
And so continuing to, as you voice all my childhood fears, I was terrified of E.T. and I didn't even know you auditioned for that. I was terrified of Salacious Breadcrumb. And then I was absolutely horrified of the gremlins. So thanks for traumatizing me in my life.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
It really is. Thanks for, letting me scar your childhood, everyone, or playing a part in it.
Well, he didn't just traumatize our youths. He filled them with laughter and love and joy. So, our hearts and our thanks go out to you, Mr. Dodson, wherever you are. And as for you guys, my thanks go out to you as well for watching the show, or as I like to call it, that suspicious gap in my resume. See you next time. Consider subscribing to my new podcast, Classic Paranormal. It's a clearinghouse for lost real-life accounts of true ghost stories. It's found on Apple Podcasts. Go there now if you're interested in enigmatic tales, chilling true accounts, chronicles from cases of the past that time has forgotten, but that the modern person who likes relaxing by a campfire swapping ghost stories might appreciate. As I said, the new podcast I'm launching is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and there's a link in the description below on this video.